A man is found dead in a field. There are no obvious answers, no confession, no witness stepping forward, no clear explanation. But inside his pocket are 2 pages covered in strange letters, numbers, dashes, and parentheses. And even after the FBI examined them, the meaning remained a mystery. What if the most important clue in a murder case was sitting in plain sight, but nobody could read it? On June 30th, 1999, authorities discovered the body of 41-year-old Ricky McCormick in Missouri. According to the FBI, he had been killed and dumped in a field. What made the case stand out wasn't just the death itself. It was what investigators found in his pants pockets. 2 handwritten notes. Not ordinary notes. Not a name or a phone number, but pages filled with what looked like some kind of secret code. And for investigators, those notes immediately became the center of the mystery. The FBI later described those notes as the only clues regarding the homicide. That alone makes the case chilling. Because if the notes were meaningful, then they might contain the last useful trail Ricky McCormick left behind. Maybe a destination, maybe a warning, maybe instructions, maybe something only he could understand. The pages were packed with short clusters of capital letters, numbers, dashes, and parentheses. More than 30 lines of coded material. At first glance, it looked like nonsense, but investigators didn't treat it like nonsense. They treated it like evidence. This wasn't just a strange scribble discovered by local police and forgotten. The notes were serious enough that they were examined by the FBI's Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, the specialists who analyze codes and ciphers. And still, there was no answer. The FBI said the notes remained one of the unit's top unsolved cases. That is what makes this story so fascinating. Because we are not talking about a random internet theory. We are talking about a real homicide investigation in which trained code experts looked directly at the evidence and still could not definitively crack it. Imagine carrying the answer to your own fate in your pocket and leaving behind a message nobody can read. Years later, the FBI publicly asked for help. They said that despite extensive efforts by their own experts and with help from the American Cryptogram Association, the notes still had not been solved. One FBI official, Dan Olson, explained why the notes mattered so much. He said that breaking the code could reveal the victim's whereabouts before his death and could lead to the solution of a homicide. That line changes everything, because it tells us the notes were never just a side detail. Investigators believe the code might contain information directly connected to Ricky McCormick's final movements. In other words, the message might not just be mysterious. It might be the missing map to the crime. The FBI also said investigators believe the notes may have been written up to 3 days before his death, which raises a terrifying possibility. Was Ricky carrying a message that mattered and didn't know how dangerous it was? These details come from the FBI's public materials on the case, including its request for public help and its image release about the notes. What could the notes be? So what were they? There are a few possibilities. The first is that this was a real coded message, something designed to hide information from anyone who might find it. The second is that it was a personal shorthand system. The FBI noted that, according to family members, McCormick had used similar encrypted notes since he was young, but nobody in the family knew how to read them. And the third possibility is the most frustrating one of all: that the notes made perfect sense to the writer, but to nobody else. Dan Olson even said that even if it turned out to be a grocery list or a love letter, the FBI would still want to understand how the code worked, because they were dealing with a cipher system they knew nothing about. That means the mystery has two layers, not just what did the notes say, but also what kind of system was this in the first place? The detail that makes this case unforgettable. This is where the case becomes more haunting than most. In a lot of unsolved cases, there is no clue at all. Here, there is a clue, a physical clue, a written clue, a clue someone can hold in their hands. And yet that clue still refuses to give up its meaning. The FBI described the notes as using a maddening mix of letters, numbers, dashes, and parentheses. They said standard routes of cryptanalysis had basically hit brick walls. Think about that. Professional code analysts looked at these pages. They formed theories. They tested methods. They tried to pull order out of chaos. And still, the answer stayed locked. That is what gives this case its power. The possibility that the truth is already there, just out of reach. Why the case still matters? More than 2 decades later, the case still lingers because it feels solvable. Not easy, but solvable. The FBI said the notes remain unsolved and that Ricky McCormick's killer had still not faced justice. That means the mystery lives in a strange space between language and silence. There was a message. There was a death. And somewhere between those two things may be the entire answer. If the notes point to a place, then maybe that place mattered. If they record appointments, names, or movements, then maybe they trace Ricky's final days. If they hide instructions, then maybe someone else was supposed to understand them. And if they were only meaningful to one man, then the code may have died with him. That is why this case still unsettles people. Because it leaves behind one of the most disturbing ideas in true crime, that a victim may have carried the clue to his own murder in his pocket, and the world still can't read it. So what do you think? Were the notes a real code? A personal writing system? Or the final piece of an unsolved murder that nobody has managed to unlock? Let me know your theory in the comments. And if you want more real mystery case files, subscribe to The Missing Chapter.